I never thought that I would ever be in a position where I would have to write here, but I guess life is just unpredictable. I frequently read about people's experiences and try my best to give some good advice, so I guess it's my turn to share and your turn to help. Only if you want to, of course, I would really appreciate it. I'm going through a somewhat crazy situation and would really appreciate the advice, so I don't know if what I want to do is the right thing. For the people with no patience, I'm struggling to accept the fact that my parents have turned into horrible people. And I'm trying to decide if I should rat them out to my grandparents. I mean, it doesn't really sound like a dilemma, right? Well, it is. Let me go ahead and give you guys some context now. I'm Wade. Obviously, it's a fake name, but I am 29. And all of this started when I came home to celebrate Thanksgiving with my parents and brother. But before I explain the main situation, I just need to give you guys the backstory. So, I live alone. I work as a writer for shows and movies, maybe some that you've seen. But before you ask, yes, I've worked on some popular stuff, and no, I will not mention it. I'm very happy I chose this life rather than living like my parents, even though they have what many would call the perfect life. So, my grandparents are very wealthy, and growing up, my father, Will, decided early on to do literally nothing. Now, as much as I dislike what he decided to do in life, I really can't hate him for it. I mean, his dad was super rich and he decided just to spend that money and live happily. I mean, if anyone could afford to do that, it was him. My grandpa, we'll call him Thomas. Thomas hated that father decided to not do anything with his life, and from what I've heard, he at one point almost kicked Dad out. But something happened that changed his mind, and he let Dad do whatever he wanted, and of course, there were still some restrictions. Probably because Grandpa was still not happy with Dad. So he went on to give Dad as much money as Dad needed to live a good, comfortable life. And Dad never really complained about it. After he got married, nothing really changed because my mom, Mary, turned out to be the same kind of person who just wanted to live in luxury without breaking a sweat. So, growing up, my parents did everything to turn me and my brother Brock into people like them. But I guess it never really worked to me. Both Brock and I had the same mindset, that we wanted to leave home and build our own lives by ourselves. I guess we hated the idea of being chained by our grandparents or our parents' money. Ugh. Honestly, I think we just didn't want to turn into our parents, so we never took the money we got for granted. Well, I'm not saying I lived a sage's life or something. I used my grandparents' money to fund my education and stuff, but I never got dependent on it. And as soon as I could, I started working part-time just so that I could save up money on the side, and it motivated my younger brother to do the same. Me and Brock thought alike, and we worked hard and studied hard to be where we were, happy and not funded by anyone else. Obviously, my parents didn't like that, and when I landed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to write, my parents did not want me to go. The work required me to move temporarily for a few months at a time, and they tried their bestest to talk me out of it. They said that instead of working myself to death in an industry that would never accept or care about me, I should just let all of it go and enjoy life with them. Dad said that Grandpa loved me and he would not mind if I did nothing. Well, I told him that I wanted to do something for myself and not for Gramps. With that, I left and have never permanently moved back home ever since. I kept getting gig after gig and kept staying until I permanently moved close to where I work now. Well, anyways, where am I going with this? I've steadily worked on many great projects. I'm very proud of what I do, and although I don't have a lavish life or a costly car, I'm very, very happy. A few years after I moved out, my brother moved out too. He decided to start his own business in the tire company. I'm also very proud of him, and I'm happy that he did not give up and did something for himself. So now you guys know what my parents are like and what my life has been like, and now here comes the real issue. A month ago, my mom reminded me that I needed to be home for Thanksgiving, and this time she wanted me to stay there for a few days. So I told her that I had already made plans to do that and was coming home for actually a few weeks. I wanted to spend some time with them as I've not seen them for many, many months. I'd already spoken with Brock, who was also coming home for over a week. It's safe to say that my parents were very happy, or at least that's what I thought, because now I don't know what to trust. Okay, but first, to continue with my story. Me and Brock came home and we celebrated with Mom and Dad. Most of our relatives are busy with their own lives and we rarely see them. Also, most of them are wealthy, so they don't really have the time for reunions. My grandparents also never celebrated anything with us, so as usual, it was only me and my family, which was enough for me. I was happy to be sitting with the people I loved the most and sharing a delicious meal that we cooked together. That was yesterday, but today things have changed oh so drastically. Today, the next day after Thanksgiving, Brock left early to go somewhere with his buddies from our hometown, and I decided, well, you know what, I'll just stay home. I also wanted to visit some old friends of mine, but they were busy for a few days. I did nothing much, just fixed a few things and wrote a few ideas, and when I say, what I saw, it was almost 4 p.m., I decided to go out for a bit, and I told my parents I was going out and was going to come home by dinner. But after 20 minutes, I realized I left my phone in my room and went back to get it. I know it took me 20 minutes to realize, but hey, I don't use my phone much, so sometimes I forget it's there. Anyways, I went home but decided not to use the door to go into the room of, well, I'm going to go the old-fashioned way. I used to climb up the tree and enter from my window. I wanted to see if I could still do it. Do I still got it? It's not as hard as you imagine. It's a small little tree and it's not really tough to climb. I reached to my room and retrieved my phone, but when it came time to leave, my back begged me to use the front door. I listened and was slowly going out, but then I overheard a conversation my parents were having in their room. Their door was slightly ajar, and they were talking about something that was secrecy. So of course I decided to eavesdrop, duh. Not really proud of it, but hey, it is what it is. I quickly learned that they were discussing some money issues related to, obviously, my grandpa. Dad was saying that they need to start the plan soon, and Mom was asking him to please just wait a little. Dad was saying that the money was not enough, and I kept trying to understand what was happening. But then things cleared up, and I got really scared. Dad told Mom that even though they had lied to Grandpa about me and my brother needing money monthly since we had left, it was still not enough. I couldn't believe that they were using our names to take more money, and it was still not enough. All this time I was wondering, what did they want to do? Buy an island or something? That's when Mom said that she knew it was not enough, but they had to wait, and she said that their sons were here, and they could do this right now. She asked him to wait till I went back to clear everything out and then start the plan. So, from what I could gather from the conversation, they're planning on scamming my grandpa for a huge sum of money, and why? Well, I don't know. I'm guessing because they're greedy. Again, I did not get the full story, but from what I could understand, they're planning to tell the grandparents that my brother, or me, is in huge debt and needs help. I believe it's Brock because he has a business, and it would be easier to explain that way. They probably want the grandparents to directly help, as Brock would never agree to do any of this. After hearing it, I immediately left and came back after half an hour, telling them I did not feel like staying out. My brother had also arrived, and he asked me if I was okay. My parents acted normal, and I spent almost the entire night trying to digest what I heard. Can you believe it? They want to bite the hand that is currently feeding them. This has put me in quite a dilemma. Like, what should I do? Should I rat them out? They're doing a terrible thing, but that amount of money is nothing to Grandpa. Also, that money is Dad's anyways, but I also can't ignore that they're going to go to the extreme to get it? Well, I don't understand. They have a great life, so why are they doing this? Please give me some advice. I don't know what to do. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh man, today's story is actually about to really heat up. But first we need to read these two comments because these people are totally against each other. The first comment comes from RDJ Over. It says, OP, it's really difficult to be in your position and I fully understand where you're coming from. On one hand, your parents are doing a really bad thing by tricking Grandpa into giving them money. But on the other hand, the money is not an issue to him, you just said it. But when it comes to situations like this, I want you to think back on what you believe is right. Is it right for your parents to steal his money even if he's not going to miss it? I don't think so. I think you should stop them. Comment number 2 from Jim Baker. Just let them do what they want, OP. It doesn't seem like you're too concerned with the morality of things here. Plus, it's not like they're taking from the poor. You said it better than anyone. It's nothing to Grandpa. So, what? Who cares if they use a little more? Now, just like they respected the life you chose and did not try to sabotage it, I believe you should do the same to them. You should talk to your brother about this. He might have the same opinion. Alright guys, we're about to hop into update number 1 that came out just a few days later. If you're not subscribed to the channel, take a second. Hit that subscribe button, guys, and let's see what's up with update number 1. Hey guys, it's been a few days since my last update, and I did end up making a decision. I'm not gonna lie, this was a tough decision to make, and it was not for my brother. I don't think I would have been able to do anything. Let me continue from where we left off, shall we? First, I want to thank you guys who, well, at least tried to help me. Hopefully you guys are not going to hate me with what me and Brock decided. Oh boy. So after my last update, the very next day I asked Brock to come with me outside as I had something to discuss with him. Then I told him everything I had witnessed, but I kept this post a secret because I didn't want him to make fun of me. He hates things like this, and I for sure know that if I told him that I went to the internet for advice, he's never going to let it go. It's going to haunt me till I'm 60. At first, just like me, he did not believe me and thought that I was pulling his leg or something. He seemed very confused, almost too confused, and he asked me for several times if this was some kind of weird prank. And when I made it clear that it was not, he was shocked. He went through the same phase and questions like, what are they doing this for, and several more like that. Obviously, I explained to him that I had no idea what the reason was other than them wanting more money. Then Brock said the last time that he was home months ago, he had heard a similar type of conversation where father said that Grandpa had refused to give them any more money. This more or less is the reason, but at this point it did not really matter why they were doing it. The only point of looking for reasons was to make sure that there was not a genuine problem. But in the case, that's not possible. If there was a problem, Dad would happily get to my grandpa for help. I also told Brock about the fact that Dad was using our names to get more money, and they were probably going to use his name to scam them. Well, he was mad and asked me to give him the day to decide. I told him that I was confused and asked him to decide what would be the right thing, but deep inside I wanted to tell Grandpa everything. If you think about it, what my parents are doing is very unfair to him. See, Grandpa had given them and us a great life, and without them I would not be able to do what I do. The next day Brock told me that he thought we should go to Gramps, tell him everything, and I agreed. And he came up with the idea of recording my parents talk about it to take as proof. I loved the idea, and we worked on a plan to get it. Yesterday, Brock and I left the house to go visit a friend, but we were just hanging outside, hoping that we got the recording. In the afternoon, Brock went home to bring something back and came back with a recording. The proof wasn't good enough to prove everything by itself, but combined with our explanation, it made perfect sense. So, now that we're sure we can convince our grandpa about the plan, we're going to give our grandparents a visit. We're planning on going tomorrow or by the midday afternoon, as we cannot let our parents get suspicious about anything. Brock has kept the evidence, and we have made up our mind to expose our parents. They deserve it for what they're planning to do, and you know what? This is it for now. I'll let you guys know what happens next, but hopefully everything goes according to plan. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's been a few days since my last update, and unfortunately nothing went as planned. It was there that I realized that I had been played right into their hands. I'm so mad right now. I got played because of my love and trust, but there was no way I could have seen it coming either. So I can't blame myself for this. Let me explain. So if you guys remember last time, I was talking about how me and Brock were going to our grandparents to tell them everything, to come clean. 2 days after my update, we went. And this is what happened. We told our parents that I want to visit one of my old friends who lived quite far away, and it would take us 2 days to return. After telling me not to go a few times, my parents agreed and we left. Brock suggested that we don't inform anyone as it could alert our parents, and I thought that's a great idea, Brock. Then, after traveling for almost a straight day, we reached our grandparents' house, where we have Grandpa, well, a little surprise. He was delighted to see us, and when I told him that we wanted to speak with him alone, he understood that there was something going on. Well, I looked at Brock, and he gave me the go-ahead, so I bursted out telling Grandpa everything. I told him about overhearing them and then having trouble making the decision, telling my brother and collecting evidence, and before he even said anything, I apologized to him for what my parents were planning, and asked him not to do anything drastic to them. You know, I still love my parents, and a slap on the wrist, I believed, would be enough to get them on the right track. Grandpa said that if what I said was to be true, then it was his own upbringing that was causing the problem. Then I looked at my brother, waiting for him to show Grandpa the recording. But what happened next felt like a nightmare. Brock, instead of telling Grandpa the truth, stabbed me in the back and told him that all of this was a fake lie. He gets emotional and told Grandpa that I begged him to help me and that I wanted to frame my parents and take his money. He said that I was planning on making it look like my parents wanted to steal the money, and to prove it, was going to take the money as bait. Then I was going to take it for myself and act like my parents took it, making them look guilty. My brother said that he agreed, as greed got to him for a while, but he could not go through with it. Believe me, when I say this, it was very, very convincing. Obviously, everyone believed him, and through just one monologue, he turned into an enemy number one. I could not even defend myself because I was so surprised by his betrayal. Honestly, even if I was thinking straight, there's not much I could have done at that point. Still, I tried to explain to old Gramps that he was in on it too. That's probably why he pretended to help me, but it was a really surprising thing, since I always believed that my brother was like me. My grandpa was fuming as he fully believed what my brother just uttered, and immediately called for his people and asked me to be thrown out. I begged him to listen to me. I pleaded. But he did not care. Grandma was the only one asking people to stop, but I was thrown out and branded a liar and a thief. I did not go back home as I didn't want to see anyone, and I'm temporarily staying at my friend's place until I have a plan. The only person I wanted to talk to now is my brother and asked him why he did what he did. Anything other than that, I have no idea what I'm going to do. Update number 3. Hey guys, it's me. Well, it's been a few weeks since my last update, and I'm sorry that I kept you guys waiting. But I do have some good news. I've decided that I cannot just sit still and do nothing. Even though I already tried and failed, I'm going to try again. After my last update, I was pretty down and out, and after having a conversation with my brother, my mental state became even worse. So, after spending almost a week thinking about it, I decided to go back to my parents' home to get my stuff and confront my brother. Also, by this time, I had done my research and found out that his business was not really doing very well. Honestly, I kinda blame myself for not noticing it early. I then went home and did not even speak to my parents, and neither did they try. I got all of my stuff, but before leaving, I asked Brock why he was doing this. He looked at me but did not say a word to me. I told him that everybody has problems and I apologized for not noticing how his life was going downhill, but he could come out of it if he wanted. I told him he was not like our parents and he wasn't far gone. At this point, he gets mad and told me that I've ruined their plan and that not everybody's life worked out perfectly. He told me that he was tired of working day in and day out to pay the bills that would return the next month. He was tired of worrying about money when he came from a very wealthy family. He said that long ago he thought the same as me, but quickly realized that our parents were right. He was done worrying about the bills and wanted to live like a king. I was mad at both him and myself because if I had learned what he was going through, I could have been the one to help him not turn to this. But the damage, it's already been done, and I could not just stay there moping. I told him that he could still give up on this and come with me, but he said that he did not want to, and then I looked at my parents disappointingly, and they asked me to stop judging them and to stay out of their way. I then tried to go ahead and talk to my grandpa again, but he completely cut me out. I went back to my own home and thought about what I could do. It sounds bad, but one part of my brain was telling me that I should just let it go and let them do whatever they wanted. Since my grandpa did not believe me either, I was telling myself that it was only fair. But I snapped out of it and told myself that I cannot let them do it. So now I've come up with a plan. I'm going to make my family confess what they're planning, and I'm going to show it to Grandpa. I know what you're wondering, how the hell am I going to manage that when they fully know my intentions? Well, I guess I'll tell them I want revenge on Grandfather. I'll explain everything else if this works out, because otherwise I would just look very stupid, so see you guys in the next one. Update for... Hey guys. Well, it's been almost 3 months, and I will not waste any time and continue where I left off. After my update, I waited for about a month and ran straight to my parents. But before that, I went to my grandpa, knowing that he was going to see me. I got humiliated on purpose so that my story would be believable. So, after waiting, I ran to my parents and brother and told them that I wanted to help them. Now, I have a habit of carrying a pen in my shirt pocket since I was little, and a small notebook on me at all times. I've had this habit ever since I started writing back when I was in my 20s. This is for the emergency ideas, and yes, I could use my phone, but I like it this way. I then used my habit to my advantage by replacing my trusty pen with a spy pen. You know, one of those little camera recording pens you can get on Amazon. I got one of those 1080p, and it worked quite well. I did this because the audio was not going to cut it this time, so armed with my pen, I started my plan. I told my family that I wanted revenge on Grandpa for treating me like garbage when I tried to save him. Obviously, everybody was skeptical, so I told them that I'm going to give them a way to steal money from them since I ruined the first plan. I also told them that I did not need a cut, and just wanted to ruin things for Grandpa as a payback for throwing me out and just trying to help him. They were still a bit skeptical, but started to believe me because they knew I've been humiliated once more. Brock asked me if I was really doing this or if I just wanted more evidence, and I gave him my phone and asked him to check my body for any recording devices. He just took a look and said, "No, that's okay." I then explained to them that Brock needs to take a few loans in our parents' names so they could have the need for a huge sum. Then they could tell my grandparents that they had recently discovered that I've taken loans in their name and vanished after my plan did not work. I would obviously be MIA, so nobody would be able to find me or contact me, and this would only make the story more believable. I was worried that they would see through my stupid plan, but it worked, and they were very happy. My parents told me to take a share, and I told them money did not interest me, and I only wanted fair revenge. So, a while later, my brother asked me to promise him that I was not here to do something fishy, and I promised him that I was only here for revenge and nothing more. I didn't specify on whom I was taking the revenge, so technically I didn't even lie. So, it took a few weeks to get the plan in motion. I documented everything. Forget proof, it was enough to make a short, crappy documentary, and as soon as my brother took out the loans, I got into action. I compiled every little confession and scam related spoken by my family and sent it to Grandma, who was the only one who had not cut me out. She showed it to Grandpa, who contacted me a few days later and showed up at the house. It was incredible. We were having lunch and Grandpa showed up and my brother almost choked. When asked, he directly spoke to my father and asked him what he had done wrong. When Dad did not answer, Grandpa asked him what mistake he had made to deserve this, and Dad understood and could not speak. He then looked at my mom and brother and said that he was ashamed of calling them family. In a thundering voice, he asked them to move out with their stuff in an hour and never show their face again. Then he looked at me and apologized for everything and thanked me for helping him. He told me that he was leaving the house in my name, which I argued, but he shut me off. Other people arrived, Grandma, a few family members, and my family looked ashamed. Dad was begging, and Grandpa, well, he asked him. He had nowhere to go. Grandpa didn't give a darn. I didn't say anything to them and just told my brother that we were even now, and I left. It's been almost a month since then, and my parents have been constantly calling me to help with the loans. It turns out my brother abandoned them and went somewhere else. But I didn't care enough to find out. I told them that I could not help them at all, and I'm sorry. Well, they should keep trying. It's getting annoying at this point. I mean, I do feel bad, but they did this to themselves. And they did not feel bad throwing me under the bus, so I'm not helping them ever. So this is probably it for my story, and hopefully none of you have to go through anything like this. Ugh, just like me. Anyways, thank you for making it to the end. Goodbye.